Hey there YouTube, this is Evil Joy with TeamEDM coming to you with a deck profile. I decided to do this since I haven't made a profile in a while, and I actually haven't made a video since the sneak peek, so I decided to make a video. So this is basically the deck I'm running now. This is Sylvans. As you know, I wanted to build Sylvans for a while. If you've watched videos here. So yeah, this is Sylvans. So yeah, this is probably the build on. There might be a couple changes, doubtful, but this is probably the build that I'm taking to regionals if I go to regionals this weekend, which is most likely the case unless something comes up. So I've got my 4 tokens. Important part of the deck because I mainly use these two because they're trees. Yeah, I don't know why I felt like showing that off. Goes with the deck box. Yeah, all my decks are in My Little Pony deck boxes. So this is in Great and Powerful Trixie. Scraps are in Rarity, and Shadows are going to be in Rainbow Dash. Can't build Shadows just because there's no Sylvan stuff in Duelist of the Line, so might as well extra deck. Got Armides because it's better than Catastrophe right now. Behemoth because I can. Most of this stuff I don't actually use. Stardust Dragon, Colossal Fighter for Bujin, same with Armides. But Armides can also fight hands, and Colossal Fighter is just kind of meant for Bujins. Scrap Dragon. The synchro I use the most is Leo, the only non-hollow synchro extra deck card in here. Unfortunately, they should have made this hollow just so that it could be hollow. Oh well. Then we got Mechquip, Arc, Gorgon. This thing's amazing, actually. One, it's 2450, so it can beat over stuff, and 2, it can just make sure that MSTs don't work, on-arcs don't work as well as it should. On-arc works a little bit better than MST, but I mean MST is not going to work, and so it just makes things not work. So I mean, this thing's pretty good. Drakosek, Big Eye, Oreo, I call it Oreo, whenever I remember to call it Oreo, Auze, and 2 Felgrunds, because Felgrun's amazing. Okay, main deck. 3 Hermitry and 3 Sage. So 3 trees, 3 Sage. I originally just liked 5 trees, and I was actually running 3-2, but I bumped this up to 3 because it is still a really good card. I'm going to say something that's controversial right here, and not a lot of people believe me. Even other people that play this deck don't believe me on this, but I'm going to say something very controversial here. This is just as good in hand as this, because both of them you really don't want in your hand, but they're both useful in the hand. Okay, so why is that? Whenever this is dead in hand, this is dead in hand. I want to explain that too. So basically, when this is dead in hand is when you can't stack your deck, and then get off an excavate. That's when this becomes dead in hand. It's like you don't have Charity or you don't have Sylvania. Well, if you're not stacking your deck, well then you can't get off unless you're blind excavating, which generally is not the thing you want to do. Blind excavating kind of a last resort in this deck. Well, when you're blind excavating, okay, when you don't have a way to stack your deck, at least, that becomes dead too, because then you're not excavating the cards you need. You're not excavating unless you can't special summon him anyway. You're not going to excavate a plant, because generally when you blind excavate in this deck, you're more likely to hit a spell or trap than you are a monster. Because this deck doesn't run a ton of monsters. It runs a few. You can come at 16 or 17 monsters. I'll get out of them up. So, I mean, generally you're more likely to excavate a spell or trap than you are a plant. So, I mean, this becomes dead in hand whenever you can't stack your deck, which is the same time that this is dead in hand. So, just thought I'd point that out. Not a lot of people believe me on that, but that's just what I found. Then you got 2 Flower Knights, because more stacking in the deck. 2 Marshall Leaf. This gets sided. One gets sided out a lot, I've found. But I mean, it's just a good game 1 card, because just being able to get rid of monsters on the board is actually a really good idea. But I mean, again, this does get sided. At least one gets sided out almost every single match. 2 Peacekeeper. Still a really good card. But because of Soul Charge, you don't need 3 anymore. For the time being, at least. So you don't need 3 right now. Because of Soul Charge. 2 Princess. This thing's amazing. This is the best TCG exclusive I could ask for, really. I mean, I was hoping that maybe we get something that when it gets excavated we draw or something, but we didn't get that. We got this, and this is actually, when I first read this, I thought, oh, it's just a weaker version of Copy Plant. Well, I mean, and decided to test that one, sort of like that one, but ended up cutting it originally. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna test it out again, and again I found that I really liked it. I mean, I didn't dislike it before. I just needed room for stuff, so I cut. This is just one of the cards that I cut. So I just kind of cut this originally, and then I put it back in just to kind of test it again. Found that once again I still really liked it. Tested it, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna test that too. And I mean, this is absolutely amazing. I won't run 3. It would eventually get cloggy. I think 3 gets cloggy a little bit. But I mean, 2 can sometimes get cloggy, but generally it's still good. So that's all the Sylvans. So that's 8, 10, 12, 8, 10, 12, 14 Sylvans. So yeah, I'm at 17 monsters. If I'm at 14 Sylvans, I'm at 17 monsters, because I also run 2 Lone Fire, Da, and Spore. That's all my monsters. Not a single non-plant in the main deck. Everything's a plant in the main deck. 3 Sylvania. This is kind of being controversial right now online, but I love this. To me, this is possibly not as good as Charity, but up there with Charity. And I don't think enough people realize that it doesn't always matter if this gets MST'd, because generally the things I'm dumping are things I want in the graveyard. So yeah, I guess like if this gets MST'd after you paid cost, yeah, it's technically a -1, but in actuality it's not, because the thing that you dumped is more live in the graveyard than it is in your hand, so it kind of evens itself out. 3 Charity, duh. This is the best card in the deck. Like, Sylvania is good, and it's possibly the second best card in the deck. But this is the best card in the deck. Then I got 3 Miracle Fertilizer, because this deck abuses this thing to hell and back. It's hard to get rid of. I mean, this card is so hard to get rid of, because generally when you play this, you're bringing out either Sage or Hermitry, and another way to make these guys, either stacking your deck with Princess or something, you're bringing out one of these guys, or playing another one to bring out another one of these guys, and your Ixies. And then you go into your Ixies and just like go, yeah, no. You can't actually, because when you Ixies, the monsters don't leave the field ever, so these things just stay on the board, and you continuously just Ixies with them and create plays. So this thing is possibly, again, one of the best cards in the deck. I can't stress how important your spell cards are in this deck, which is one of the reasons why I don't run Curry Bandit. I'll go into everything with Curry Bandit at the end. I'll go over why I don't like Curry Bandit in this deck. 3 MST. It's just, yeah, it's kind of bad in the hat matchup, hand artifact tricks, or artifacts in any artifact variant. This is kind of bad, but that's the only matchup in which this is bad. Main deck, I mean, yeah, it's kind of suboptimal in other matchups, and you can side those out, but I mean, it's still useful. Game 1 against those matchups, the only matchup in which this thing's bad is artifact variants, which is really only a small kind of deal. And the other meta decks, like Girgia and Medolce, this thing is absolutely amazing, and you kind of want this card because this thing will clear up the back row so that you can make your plays. So that's why I main MST, because he has bad in one matchup but so good in everything else that it kind of demands still being mained, in my opinion. I tried siding it, but I ended up putting it back in. 2 Soul Charge. I only run 2. I know some people like 3, but I decided to go with 2 because, again, I think 3 gets a little cloggy. There's a lot of the times where I don't want this in my hand. And a lot of the times, like, this is one of the cards I put back. Like, if I Sylvania in-phase it and I reveal this, a lot of the times this is one of the cards that's automatically straight to the bottom of my deck because I don't want to draw it. Now, there are times when it is good, and I have misplayed before where I have put it back in the deck at a certain reach where I can't reach it. But in general, this thing is still really good, and so just allows me to, obviously it's really good. I mean, this thing is broken, needs to be either limited or banned, but I mean, I don't run 3 because I don't always want it in my hand. There are only a few occasions where I actually want this thing in my hand, and when I do, I'm making a big play. But that's about it. Also, one more thing about this thing. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it allows you to special summon like 4 monsters from my graveyard. I think the most I've ever done is 3, but the vast majority of the times where I actually use this thing, I'm only special summoning out 2 monsters. So I'm not really losing anything when I play this except a battle phase and 2,000 life points, but that doesn't really matter because this is the only thing that I play that costs me life points. I was putting warning by cut warning for the next card, which is MVP of the deck, 3 Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. Oh my god, I don't know why I wasn't playing this thing before. I didn't even think about this card. I didn't even think about playing this card till I saw a few people topping regionals with the deck who were all playing this card. And while I definitely didn't copy any of those decks because I disagreed with a lot of the card choices that they made, this was a card that I hadn't tested yet. So I figured I'd test it, and oh my god, this thing is the best card in the deck, bar none, or bar Charity in Sylvania, I should say. This thing is tech MVP. This thing gets me out of everything, and pretty much every single time I draw this and get it off, I win. I win if I draw this and get it off. So yeah, this thing is best thing ever. To breakthrough skill, I personally prefer Fiendish Chain, Invader over this. But with MST, I do the whole, it's getting used to everything, but well, this thing's still good against everything else, while still being the better option in the hat matchup, artifact variant matchup. So I figured, since this is still good against the other things, and a lot better than Fiendish Chain in artifact variant matchup, I figured I'd go with this. So that's why I play this. And this also is one of my outs to Ophion too, since yeah, it's good. Outs to a lot of things. If I play, I learned that Herald actually can't negate this if it's in the graveyard. Herald can't negate this. Herald of Perfection. I learned that because one of my friends actually plays Herald a little bit. Too wide out. It just, same reason as MST, it just kind of gets rid of back row, and allows me to make my plays. I know this is long, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to explain everything. And then, to Blessing. This is the only non-hollow card in the deck. I should probably cut this because it's not hollow. God dang it, why didn't they make this hollow? This thing is amazing, actually. A lot of people don't like this. I don't understand why. I will say this is one of the cards that pretty much gets sided out every match. But there are matchups where I do keep this in, mainly against decks that run a lot of traps. If they run a lot of traps, I'll definitely keep this in. But generally, game one, this thing, again, kind of like Phoenix Wing, kind of just gives me wins. So, I mean, just the fact that I can just easily stack my deck with anything I want, because my hand's usually got something that I'm willing to stack, and bring out either of these two guys for free, pretty much, because I'm going to get the X-ray off of it, which is something that will allow me to plus. So, I mean, I guess, sorry, so, I mean, you just get one of these, and then it's not, these aren't affected by anything, which is so incredibly nice. Like the fact that you can just bring these out and not worry about anything. There's nothing they can do about these guys. So you just beat up on them, and then you get your excavate, and then you're generally not, every once in a while, like, I'll let it go back into the deck, but that's not always a bad thing either. But the vast majority of the time, I'm going to either make a Synchro, either Leo, or we'll go into an Ixies. If it's this, Felgrim most likely, and if it's this, most likely Dracossack. Now, here's the times where I'll let it go back into the deck. One, if I don't have anything, I'll let it go back to the bottom. It's not going to really hurt me there if it's at the bottom. Or if I got something that I can play with this, even with it going to the top of my deck, I'll let it go to the top of my deck, because then I can draw it, or with Sylvania Excavated, and do more stuff with this. So I've got a lot of different ways. So, I mean, the fact that this sends it back to the deck if you don't actually do anything with it doesn't actually hurt you too much. So that's why Blessing is really good, despite the fact that it is not a holo. That's like my one complaint with the card, is that it's not a holo. It means it's the only non-holo card in my deck, in my main deck. So that's basically the deck. So I'm going to explain Curry Bandit. I don't have a Curry Bandit anymore. I just traded them away. But let's see. Is there something I can use? Possibly. Give me a sec. Just for illustration purposes, this is my Curry Bandit. Because awesome, Rainbow Dash is awesome. Curry Bandit's a really good card. I just don't like it in this deck. And I'll explain why. So, generally, so there's a lot of reasons. Okay, first, Curry Bandit is Fiend. And while that might not sound like a bad thing, and it's actually not. If it weren't for everything else that goes with it, I could play around it. The fact that it's Fiend, okay? So the reason why being a Fiend is bad is because one, it'll lead to dead activates. And with me running 23 spells and traps, I've got enough of those. So I don't really want that. And two, if I've got a board set up, I'm generally not going to just summon Curry Bandit for whatever reason. So it'll stay dead in my hand later in the game. And because it's in hand, I can't, because it's a Fiend, I can't pitch it with Sylvania. So it's kind of dead in deck and it's dead in hand. The second thing is it takes up a normal summon, which is very important in this deck because, early game, you're going to be using your summons on mostly these guys, because these guys set up kind of a field presence, they just kind of set up a field presence, and obviously this thing's amazing. So these are generally what you're going to want to normal summon most often early game, and then later in the game you're going to be using a lot of these a lot of the time. So generally there's just no good time, and when you use these and special summon with these, you can't normal summon that turn. So once again, it's staying dead in hand a lot. But again, if those were the only problems, it'd be workaroundable. So next, I'm going to talk about what are the things that are good at activating. So generally, I'll get out all my Sylvans, one of each, just because. I'm just showing how many numbers of each I want. So these are on 6 different types of Sylvans, okay? So these are all the things that would seem like they're good activates, okay? Because they activate when they get activated. But I'm going to knock off a couple right now. This thing activates during the end phase. So what's terrible to activate during the end phase? These, not that one. These two. These are terrible to activate during the end phase. Reason these are terrible to activate during the end phase is because your opponent gets a turn to kill the stuff that's brought out. If it's this gets brought out and gets quickly killed off, and if it's this, whatever it is, lone fire, this, or anything else, it's gonna get killed off pretty quickly. So these are generally just bad in-phase activates. I need these 4. Okay, well, like I said, even though these 2 and lone fire are probably better normal summons early game, this thing can compete with that early game. So I mean, it's not the worst thing normal summon. It can compete with these 2. Can't really compete with lone fire. Nothing really competes with lone fire. Later in the game, you're using these. Okay, we all know that you're using those. So this thing's kind of dead the later in the game you go. So basically, the best time to use this is first turn and the first turn, because once you're past that, you can do other stuff. So what does that kind of get rid of? It gets rid of this, because if you're activating it first turn, you're not popping anything with this. So this is just kind of becomes a dead activate. So that leaves these 3 as good activates, and they are. These 3, this will allow you to select your deck. This allows you to kind of control what you're getting, and this allows you to get back Sylvans stuff. The Sylvan Spare Trap. Again, but there's a problem with this one, and that's the fact that your targets are your Blessing, Charity, and Sylvania. Okay, so since this is good only really turn 1, if you haven't used these things, you can't use, are probably not going to go to the grave turn 1, and unless you've used that, you could have potentially used that, but I mean, it doesn't matter. So unless you either have used the Charity or Curryman excavates one of these 3, you're probably not going to get Sage's effect off. And yeah, you run 3 of these and 2 of these, so that's 8. So I mean, there's a chance you'll hit it, because that's a fifth of your deck. That are these 3 cards. I mean, that's still 4/5 of your deck that aren't these 3 cards, and so you're probably more likely to hit those than you are hit that, than to hit these. So I mean, it's still good to activate. It's just you kind of gotta get lucky. Again, you gotta get lucky with it. But again, these 2 are good. So I mean, the activates aren't. You don't have terrible options with the activates. But I mean, they're just not good enough. Next thing is, because you're running 17 monsters and 23 spells and traps, okay, this thing will allow you to add 1 spell trap that activates to your hand, which is good. But generally, your general excavation is going to be around 2 monsters, either 2 spells and a trap, or 2 spells, 2 monsters, 3 spells. So it's going to be one of those 2 combinations on average, okay? And so, if you excavate this, okay, let's go with these 5 cards. You'll grab probably Fertilizer, and with Sage you'll grab Charity, okay? Which is pretty good. You just plus. That's awesome. But, okay, so you don't hit the Sage, because again, that's only 3 cards in your deck. So, I mean, you're not going to hit Sage every time. So, let's say you hit anything else. That, for example. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So here, you'll probably grab Charity. In this situation, you'll probably grab Charity, because Charity is just the best card in your deck, so you'll grab the best card in your deck. That's two very important spells that you're sending to your graveyard. And these, there's almost never a time where you want to just get rid of your spells. Like, the spells in the deck, besides maybe MST, are very, very important. And you kind of want to draw all of them. And even MST is still good, because, I mean, if there's all of your MSTs go away, you've got nothing to fight the back row. So that's generally the reasons why I don't like Curry Bandit in this deck. Curry Bandit is amazing in a lot of decks, okay? But it's just kind of, it's an option in this deck, but it's not exactly a good option. It's can set up plays, but it can also throw away plays. If that makes any sense. It can set up, but it can also throw away your entire game. Like, for instance, like, even though this is probably not going to happen, I mean, in the excavation, I mean, even though, again, like I said, it's probably not going to happen, you could hit all three of those, and bam, you get one Charity, and you get your, if you can activate Sages throughout the game, yeah, you can replay it, but potentially you're only getting one Charity for the rest of the game. Again, this isn't very likely to happen, but it can. The reason why you can, even though it's kind of ill-advised to try blind activate unless you're kind of in a tight spot, but the reason you can even attempt the blind activates with these guys, or anything else really, is that not really Princess, and you only really blind activate with Princess unless if you really want to put Princess back on top of your deck. But the reason it's okay to blind activate with these guys is because if you miss, you're not throwing the card away. It goes back into your deck. Sure, it goes to the bottom of the deck, but you shuffle your deck so much. Like, the deck gets shuffled enough times, and you go through your deck like so fast, you'll probably see that spell again. So I mean, so because they kind of just put the spells back into the deck, these become not as bad to blind activate with, because even if you miss, you're not throwing the cards away. So that's just my general explanation on Curry Bandit. I know it's long. I know this video is long. I have a tendency to ramble. But that is my Sylvan deck. This is my favorite card in the deck. So that's why I'm putting it out here, if I can find the other one. This is my favorite card in the deck, so that's why I'm putting it out there. That's my Sylvan deck. That's my explanation on my card choices. If you have questions, please ask me. I love talking about this deck. This is such a fun deck for me to play. I love it. So, until then, bye.